to talk today about weariness. Deep soul weariness. It's something we actually all experience at some times in our lives. How we experience that kind of weariness can be very different. Why we might experience it can also be extremely different reasons. But we do find ourselves at times in our lives experiencing deep weariness of the soul, where the burdens we feel we're carrying are just too much, and we really just can't go on the way it is. Over the summer, I experienced probably one of my most deepest seasons of being weary, if I'm honest. A number of different things kind of culminated together. 18 months of the COVID pandemic at school was massive. Challenges at school with staffing. I was weary, I was exhausted, probably emotionally drained, spiritually dry actually, if I'm honest, at that point. And it culminated in me visiting a member of the church. And I went to visit this person to encourage them, because that was what I was meant to be doing. So I went to encourage them. I ended up breaking down, getting quite angry about stuff. Rather than me being a blessing to them, they turned into being a real blessing to me and helped me start thinking some things through. Why was I struggling? I was struggling because my soul was weary. I was struggling because the burdens I was trying to carry on my own were just far too great. What worries you? What wearies you? What burdens you in your life? Is it work? Is it family? Is it world events? Do you hear the news? They just weigh you down and make you weary. Is it health? Perhaps it's fears, failures that you look back on and you just find the burden is too great. Perhaps it's those disappointments. Now there are times when we can actually point to a significant moment, a factor that has actually built up and made us feel the way we feel. Perhaps the challenges of life, the expectations placed upon us by others. Perhaps it's the impact of our frail bodies, or even the consequences of sin. They weigh us down. And we can all experience this at times. We can be weary because of the choices we've made in life. And we can also be heavy laden because of the burdens others place on us. So where can we go? Where can we go to truly find rest for our souls? Simple encouragements from friends might help. They might help a bit. Things like, cheer up! Things are going to get better. They help a little bit, don't they, sometimes? Or perhaps a walk in the countryside helps a little bit. Or a chat with a dear friend might bring some relief from our weariness. But they are temporary. There is only one way that we can find true rest for our souls. Now the burdens that we carry aren't simple, are they? They're not usually simple. If they were simple, we would deal with them and we'd get it all sorted. They're not simple. We live in an age of great anxiety at the moment. Stress is talked about more now, I think, than ever before in life, and worry. But I want to tell you about one simple promise. One very simple promise that can relieve us of all these complex burdens that we hold on to. The relief of our weariness, it comes from one who has immense power and who can speak a promise that is so simple, yet so hopeful and so refreshing. Jesus said this, come to me, all who are tired from carrying heavy loads, and I will give you rest. I will give you rest. Our souls need rest. And we can only really truly find rest where we have hope. You see, that's what we're all frantically looking for whenever our souls are burdened, whenever we feel restless. We are looking for hope in something. That's why the advertisements, the ad man, right? What they do is they're trying to sell products that appeal to our desire for hope. That's what they're doing. They attempt to offer us hope. If we only had that, it would be sorted. But they're offering false hopes. Material products, even walks in the woods, or coffee with a friend, only really provide temporary distractions from our weariness. Buying the latest phone, or the new dress or shirt, or going on a holiday, well, they only really briefly mask over the cracks. Nothing this world can offer, no false hope, right, is ever going to truly lighten our heavy load. Our burdened souls only truly find rest in one place. This is Psalm 62. Wait calmly for the latest phone. Wait calmly for God alone, my soul. Because my hope comes from Him. He alone is my rock and my saviour, my stronghold. I cannot be shaken. My salvation and my glory depend on God. God is my rock of my strength, my refuge. Trust Him at all times, you people. Pour out your hearts in His presence. God is our refuge. You see, Jesus, when He said that, come to me, in Matthew's Gospel, Jesus knows that He alone is the one who can bring rest. He alone is our salvation. He alone is our stronghold. He alone is our mighty rock. He alone is our refuge. He is the one, right? He is the one who can answer every question we have. Every concern we might have, every fear we might have, every need we will ever have. And so He simply, but completely, offers us a solution to our weariness. When we are weary, when we are heavy laden, our hope is only found in Him. How do we therefore receive Christ's rest? This is the whole passage in Matthew 11. Come to me. Come to me, all who are tired from carrying heavy loads, and I will give you rest. Place my yoke over your shoulders and learn from me, because I am gentle and humble. And then you will find rest for yourselves, because my yoke is easy and my burden is light. How do we receive Christ's rest? Well, I want to give you 3 words to try and remember today. Believe, abide, and follow. Believe. Jesus says, come to me. He is the one to give rest. Nothing else, no one else. The hope we are looking for can only be found in Him. He is the one who can truly give us rest. But if His promise is for rest, why does He tell us to put on the yoke? A yoke is one of those things that's placed on a beast of burden in order for it to do some work. Isn't it? That's why it puts a yoke on, to do some work. Is Jesus offering us rest, or is he offering us work? What is he doing? Do you know, I think that's precisely the question Jesus wanted the crowd to actually ask. What work must we do for him that will give us rest? What work do we have to do that will give us rest? Well, Jesus answers it in lots of passages. I just want to look at a couple in John. John chapter 6, verse 29. All right, this is Jesus answering that question. What work do we have to do? This is what it says. Verse 29, John 6. This is the work of God. Here we go, ready? That you believe in him. That's it. That's the work. That we believe in him whom God has sent. Believing that our hope can only be satisfied in Jesus is the work he invites us to do. Oh, okay. That's the work. John 15 verse 4, he gives a bit more instruction. He says, abide in me. Abide in me. Like a branch in a vine, isn't it? Right? Believe and abide. That is all the work God requires of us. It's faith, isn't it? Believing and abiding in him. Faith is resting on the hopeful promises of God. That is the yoke that Jesus is calling you to put on. A yoke of believing and abiding. And what's happening here is actually a yoke exchange. Because you might not realise, but you already had a yoke on you. You already were heavy laden and burdened. You had a yoke. Right? We're weary, we're heavy burdened because of our sin and because of the sin of others and how it impacts us. And at the cross, Jesus takes our unbearably heavy yoke of sin. He takes all of sin's condemnation, all of sin's penalty. Sometimes I show it this way. Imagine this is it. This is me. This is my sin. Right? A barrier between me and God. It's like a yoke. It's heavy. It weighs us down. And he offers us an exchange. And he says, actually, do you know what? You can have a different yoke. It's a yoke that's easy. It's a yoke that's light. It's a yoke of simply trusting him. And he takes our yoke on himself. That's what he does. He does all the work and he gives us all the rest. That's what goes on in that transaction. And his work doesn't just fully address the sin problem, but it also provides the supply of every other need we will ever have. All we are required to do is to trust him, to believe in who he says he is, and to abide in him. Our problem is we don't really believe him. That's the problem. And we look for hope in other things. We look for it in other things. Popularity. Security. Perhaps. Got my pension. Okay. Approval. We look for it there, don't we? We look for it in money, in health. If only we would realise that if we put our hope in Christ, the one who does all the work for us, we would then get rest. And if that wasn't enough, Christ left heaven, came to live amongst us, and we have an example now to follow. Jesus makes it possible for us to learn from him how to live by faith. That's what the Gospels show us, don't they? He calls us to believe. He calls us to abide in him. And then he says, follow my steps. Follow me. That's why the author of Hebrews can say this. Look to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross. Right? We look to him. Look to him. We're to believe that he is the one that can truly provide the rest. We're to abide in him, to rest in him, and we're to follow in his steps. That's the light yoke that Jesus calls us to put on. It's the only yoke that will truly give you rest. Look at this passage again. Come to me. Just listen to it. Allow it to wash over you. The word of God. Come to me, all who are tired from carrying heavy loads, and I will give you rest. Place my yoke. This is Jesus talking to you. Place my yoke over your shoulders, and learn from me, because I am gentle and humble. What will happen? Then you will find rest for yourselves. Because my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Jesus is the giver of rest. And we can trust him because he describes himself, if you notice this, he describes himself as gentle and humble, or perhaps in some translations, gentle and lowly. I think, and someone else can help me out with this, but I think that's the only time Jesus actually describes his character. Those two words. I think it is. I couldn't find anywhere else. But Jesus actually himself says, this is what I'm like. I'm gentle and humble. Isn't that amazing? That and all he could have said about himself, they're the two words that he chose. I am gentle and humble. Gentle. Not harsh. Not easily exasperated. He's the most understanding person in the universe. His most natural posture is not a pointy finger. It's an open arms to embrace us. He's gentle. And he's humble. Right? Jesus' very being is lowly, is humble, he's accessible. Right? Yes, he is God. Yes, he is full of glory, of blazing and dazzling holiness. Of course he is. But he's humble. He stoops down to be with us. And to be welcomed into the embrace of his open arms only requires us to have faith in him, to believe, to abide, and to follow. There is nothing else we need. Nothing else we need to be accepted and loved by God and find perfect rest. So if we labour, if we carry heavy loads, then Jesus' embrace is for us. He will give you rest. And do you know what? No payment is required. No payment is required. Christ's rest is a gift. You don't have to earn it. It's a gift. Are you labouring hard at the moment to sort your own life out? Are you finding yourself weighed down by things outside of your control? Then you qualify for a gift of rest. Who is this gift for? Well, actually, it's not for everybody. It isn't a gift for everybody. It's for those who believe, those who abide, those who follow. Because he says, come to me, didn't he? That's how he starts that phrase. Come to me. And if you're not going to come to him, if you're not going to accept Jesus as who he says he is, then there is no rest. You'll just go through life's stride and carry that weary burden. But he also says, and take my yoke. take my yoke. You've got to do that exchange. You've got to give it all to Jesus. You've got to give him that heavy burden. You've got to say, I give it to you, and not grab it back. And not go, oh, you're bad at that. I think a lot of us are bad at that. You've got to give it to him and take his yoke. His yoke. You see, this yoke that Jesus offers is a yoke for those who are crying out for help. For those who come to the end of themselves. So when I was sat, in the sun, I was with Clinton, by the way. And I came to the end of myself in that moment, actually. And I realised I just can't carry this anymore. I had to get to that point to realise, do you know what am I doing? I need God. I need Jesus. For those who are willing to come to Jesus, to enjoy his embrace, we can be absolutely confident, secure, to know that his embrace will always be sufficient for whatever road we feel we're carrying, for whatever burden we have. And we now know that he will meet us, how? With gentleness and with humility. Because sometimes we have a wrong view of who God is, don't we? And we create this vision of who we think God is, and he's not going to be pleased with us. Jackie talked a bit about it in her testimony. How can I be loved by God? He is gentle. And he's full of humility. And he offers us rest. What kind of rest? Is it rest from work? Is it an early retirement plan? Is that what we get? Is that what it's all about? No, it's not. He's talking about rest for our souls. We are yoked to him. As we learn from him, his kindness sustains us. It nourishes our very souls. When Jesus says his yoke is easy, he isn't really saying that life's going to be free from toil. He's not saying life will be free from struggle or pain or hardship. He's not saying that. What he's saying is, his yoke is easy, his yoke is kind, and he will carry the burdens for us. Think about, we live by the water, don't we? So as you walk down the river and perhaps at the sea, you'll see occasionally a post, and in that there'll be a life buoy, one of those rings. Alright? I don't know if you've ever tried to pick one up, or whether you've ever been in a situation you've had to throw it to somebody who's in the sea. They are pretty heavy. They're hard to do. It's really hard to throw them any distance. And sadly, so many people think that the yoke that Jesus offers us is going to be like that. But what we don't realise is, once we have thrown it into the sea, suddenly it becomes a lifesaver. And if only the person who's floundering in the waves were to put themselves into it and grab hold of it, they would discover it gives them life, doesn't it? It holds them up. It keeps their head above water and they can breathe. That's the yoke Jesus is offering. He's offering us a yoke that will give life. I read this once. What helium does to a balloon, Christ's yoke does to his followers. What helium does to a balloon, it's not perfect, but it gives you an idea, doesn't it? Where does the balloon go when it's got helium? It goes up, doesn't it? It lifts it, gives it life. All we've got to do is come to him. The simplicity of Jesus' promise is both striking, that's it, but it's also so refreshing. Right? Because Jesus doesn't say, like the Buddhists would say, just follow these four paths and you'll get peace and enlightenment. He's not saying that. He's not saying, actually, do you know what? Here are 5 pillars. If you just keep these 5 pillars and do what you're told to do, you'll find peace, as Islam says. He doesn't even give us a self-help book and say, here are the 10 ways to live a restful life. It's kind of a modern way of doing things, isn't it? What does Jesus do? He does something completely unique. No other person in any part of history has ever done what Jesus has done. How does Jesus deal with our need? Jesus simply offers himself. Himself. He took it all upon himself. He is the universal solution to all of our burdens. When Jesus said, "Come to me," he just means believe in what I claim to be. Believe in who I say I am. He calls us to abide in him. And he says, then follow my example. Follow my example.